Welcome to the Ports Garrison. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you. Greetings and welcome to the Ports Garrison. I am your host, Phil the Poet, and I want to thank you for stopping by, taking the time to click on this video, to hear what my thoughts are, to find out what's going on up in the Ports Garrison. Now, recently I made a video of the opposition leader of Jamaica, Mark Golan, answering a question in Hartford, Connecticut, as to his place of birth. I promise that I'll present more videos on some of the things or the presentations he made during the course of his very short stay now here. He spoke to a gathering of Jamaicans, including one person from the opposing party who made a nuisance of herself, but was treated with very much respect. And he made that presentation in Hartford, Connecticut, and here is what he had to say.
Thank you very much, Cousin Veronica. It's not a lie.
I beg.
Cousin Veronica and my dear wife Sandra are first cousins.
Yes,
yeah.
we are.
And Phyllis,
Cousin.
yeah, I think as well, I'm not sure. Yes, Comrade Chairman of the People's National Party, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke. State Representative Gibson, what a pleasure to meet you, sir, and I just want to thank you for all you're doing for the community here in Hartford. And you know, I know that you played an instrumental role in bringing to actualization the vision of Andrew about the direct flight coming from your international airport here straight to Montego Bay. And of course, connectivity is vital and brings other benefits and other opportunities. So enough respect, as we say in Jamaica, sir, and thank you very much for what you're doing and keep up the very good work. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades all, and of course my sweet Labourite friend.
Recognition! Yes! Who can stop that? When they go low, we go high.
First of all, I want to thank the organizers of this visit to Hartford today. And you know, it's been an opportunity to come back to a city which I have been to before, but never in an official capacity. I have been here on family business before. So this is my first visit to Jamaica House and the home of the Jamaica Progressive League. And as has been said, the Jamaica Progressive League was a vital, formative institution in the history of modern Jamaica, which gave rise really to the movement towards independence, really, and it's out of that organization that the People's National Party emerged as the political instrument to seek self-government and then independence. And of course, along the way, universal adult suffrage, which came into being in Jamaica in 1944. So, you know, these are hallowed halls, and you know, the Jamaica Progressive League has a very distinguished and long history, and it's important that an institution such as this one be afforded the opportunity to continue to exist. And I know it's not easy to maintain institutions from generation to generation. Sometimes the younger generation has other interests and so on, but it's very important that we try and find ways of including them so that we can sustain its existence into the future because of its very important historical antecedents. I am here really in my capacity as president of the People's National Party, and you know, we are in an election year in Jamaica, constitutionally due, but no later than September this year. In the Jamaican constitutional system, we do not have fixed election dates. The date of the election is really the choice of the Prime Minister, who has the power to ask the Governor General to dissolve Parliament and call elections. So we do not know when exactly the elections will be, but we do know that the Constitution requires them to be held by September. And these are very important elections that we are facing because Jamaica is at somewhat of a crossroads. Many of you will be aware that we have spent the last 12 years or so really getting the country's public finances into good order. We had built up a serious debt problem over many years, partly as a result of the imbalances and unfairness in the world financial system. You know, countries coming out of colonialism didn't get any major reparations or benefits to enter independence, and we got into independence and were soon thereafter hit with the international oil crisis of the early 70s. And from then on, really, Jamaica has been somewhat struggling to maintain the momentum that we'd enjoyed before, because under the government's first of the Right Excellent Norman Washington Manley, which from 1955, and then followed through with Sir Alexander Bustamante's government into 72, and then the first year of the Michael Manley government, things were going along very well. Jamaica was growing at a rapid pace. I think in the 1950s we were in the top 3 countries in the world in terms of economic growth. So much so that Lee Kuan Yew visited Jamaica from Singapore to see how to do it. And we know what has happened in Singapore since. But then we were hit very hard by the oil shock. I think the oil price went up, quadrupled virtually overnight, and it threw out Jamaica's balance of payments and put us into a very difficult situation, which we've taken a long time to recover from. So when we assumed government in 2012, at the beginning of 2012, the election was at the end of 2011, just before New Year's Eve, I think it was. And then we were facing a situation where the debt of the country was at really an astronomically high level, over 140% of GDP, which is just a statistic, but it really means that you're struggling to pay your debt and you don't have any money to do anything else, really. And that had to be addressed, because we couldn't develop as a nation without getting that under control. And the IMF was asked to assist with that, and in conjunction with the Jamaican government, a program was designed which was really with the objective of ensuring that Jamaica sustainably got itself out of that hole once and for all. And I was part of the government then. I was the Minister of Justice. That was my first time in government. I'd been a senator before since 2007. Prior to that, I had been in the private sector. I am a corporate lawyer by training and profession, and I've also been involved in business, in investment banking and financial services as well. So I came into politics relatively late. I was in my mid-40s when I got involved in representational politics, or at least parliamentary politics. So as Minister of Justice, my role was to ensure that the legislative agenda of the government was delivered on time. And it was a very challenging time to be Minister of Justice, because the IMF program had a number of deliverables, things that we had committed to doing. All of them were had dates attached for achieving various milestones, and these were major pieces of legislation to really fix the tax system of the country so that the revenue base would grow and give us the fiscal space to pay down the debt, but also fixing other aspects of the economy, the commercial architecture, as I call it, of the economy. I'm happy to say that in the 4 years of that government, we delivered on time. We passed every IMF test. We did all legislation, and there were many, many pieces of legislation that were required, were developed and put into Parliament on time. And as a result, by the time that we lost the election in 2016, very narrowly, 1 seat difference in between but it's a testament to the maturity of Jamaica's democracy that such a close election could result in a transfer of power with no violence or acrimony or anything. And it was a controversial election because a number of the members of Parliament were actually unconstitutionally in Parliament because they were dual citizens, not allowed, or it still is not allowed. So nevertheless, we accepted the result of the election, and the Jamaica Labour Party government took over. And the fiscal rules that were the mainstay of the assurance to the Jamaican people that our debt trajectory would continue to go downwards. Those fiscal rules have been put into law under us, and they continued that journey. So that now, after, I'd say, 12 years of this, Jamaica's debt to GDP ratio has moved from 147% at its highest down now to 68% in about a decade. And that has really created a tremendous opportunity for the country to move forward. Unfortunately, it has not been accompanied with levels of economic growth, so that the wealth of the nation has stagnated somewhat. We are seeing, for example, last year, 2024, we actually had negative growth. The economy shrank. We were hit by a hurricane, of course, at the beginning of July, but we were already on a downward trajectory. So there is something wrong in the arrangements that support the Jamaican economy. Why is it that with our debt coming down, and when you look at certain other metrics, we have low unemployment, and inflation, like worldwide inflation has been up, but it's been managed and it's now within the targeted range and so on. Yet, we're not seeing the levels of foreign direct investment, we're not seeing the levels of economic growth that can change the lives of our people.
That's right.
And so, this is what this election really is going to be about. It's going to be which party is able to make that shift of gear, so that we move out of this kind of the doldrums that we're in, the stagnation that the economy is in, and move towards a higher level of economic growth. And not just higher level of growth, but inclusive growth, sustainable growth, environmentally sustainable growth, and also inclusive growth, meaning that growth that doesn't just create massive inequalities or exacerbate or worsen the existing inequalities in the society, but rather in growth that includes everyone, especially those, the less fortunate, the less well off, and brings them up. So we are, of course, committed to that task, and we believe that the key to it, there are a few key elements, but one philosophically important is that the human capital, the people of Jamaica, must be at the center of that effort. We have to invest in strengthening the competitiveness of our economy through investing in the talents and capacities of our people. And this means that the education system, which has some real problems, especially at the primary and pre-primary levels, we need to really set that right. And it's one of the aspirations and goals of the People's National Party that we will deliver Jamaica as having the best pre-primary and primary system of education in the region. We want, right now we're at a place where over 30%, 3 out of 10 of Jamaican primary school children who leave primary school at age 12 and go into secondary school can't read and write, can't do arithmetic. And of course, they are going into a secondary school system which assumes that they have those basics in place. So there's no proper remedial program for them. And that, of course, means that by the time they finish, they didn't have the basics, and they aren't able to handle the secondary school work. They leave school eventually, either drop out or if they finish, and they don't have, there's not much for them to look forward to in life. And many of them end up on the corner, and they get themselves into all kind of problems, and this feeds into the problems we have with crime and violence and what have you. So we have to turn off that pipeline, so to speak, and fix it so that that 30% is eliminated as a statistic, and we have as close to 100% as possible of our children who leave primary school literate and numerate, and it can be done. It can be done, and that is our principal goal. We also have to increase the competitiveness and productivity of our economy. Jamaica's productivity has been falling over many, many years. And so that is why you can see that, despite there being low unemployment, nevertheless, there's virtually no growth, because the generation per person, per worker, is not what it should be. And this means that we have to really strengthen the training aspect of our economy. We have HART, which is the Human Resource the state training agency, but there's a feeling that HART needs to be re-engineered because it's not really training for the future. Even for today, it's too backward looking in what it's training our youngsters to do. We need to really integrate with the private sector and work on collaboratively to have training which is really tied into what the businesses of the country want and need. So we have a plan to match each dollar of investment in training that any private sector enterprise undertakes. We will match it dollar for dollar from the state resources in training, and that will expand the private sector led training, which is training which is typically practical and thought through about making sure that these workers can provide the kind of support, do the kind of tasks that business needs. So this is another area which needs significant attention as well. Agriculture is a vital industry for Jamaica, and it has been treated for far too long as a kind of poor cousin. It's not treated as sexy, you know. It's like, and the image of agriculture in Jamaica is one where a lot of young people don't want to get into farming because they don't, you know, think of it as, you know, you have to get dirty and, you know. But the truth is that Jamaica has tremendous competitive advantages in agriculture. We are blessed with a soil and climate that makes things grow very well there, and the produce that we have is in many areas is the best in the world. So we have wonderful coffee, wonderful cocoa, ginger, Sea Island cotton, yeah, and so on. Scallion, Scotch bonnet pepper, thank you, and other, etc. And of course the good old ganja, which is, you know, increasingly being recognized around the world for its medicinal benefits as well. So we have great potential, but we just haven't got the necessary arrangements in. So we really need to support our farmers in a major way. We need to. Right now, it's very difficult for farmers to access loans. We have to. The PC banks are not really working as they should. They become. It's very bureaucratic and difficult to access a loan as a farmer. The requirements are beyond and above what many farmers are able to meet. So we really have to re-engineer that and ensure the flow of credit into the agricultural sector so that farmers have the working capital to do what they have to do. And we have to support them with investments in farm roads. The road network in Jamaica is in very poor condition at the moment. And farm roads are perhaps the worst of the worst. And so it's very challenging for farmers to even get their produce out or to get things in, fertilizer and so on. And we need to ensure that there's adequate storage and cold storage, because where there's surplus production, it shouldn't be allowed to spoil and it shouldn't have to be dumped on the market, which collapses the price and means that the farmers end up sustaining losses. So agriculture needs a great deal of attention, and we're very committed to it because, as the pandemic showed, food security is a real issue. You can't assume that the supply chains that you're accustomed to will always be available, because shipping can be dislocated, ports can be congested, ports that you can find that you just can't access. War, geopolitical issues, the war in Ukraine pushed the price of wheat and other agricultural commodities much higher and became less affordable. So we need to ensure that Jamaica is able to produce much more of the food that we use. When we last were in government, in 2016, we were importing about, I think it's 800 million US worth of food from abroad. It's now more like $1.4 billion, you know? So it's a great opportunity for Jamaica to displace some of those imports. Some of those things are not things we can grow, but many of them are things that we can grow. And people get permits, and the permitting system for the importation of items in Jamaica is not a transparent system. And it's a system which I believe there's been a fair amount of corruption in it over the years, so we need to fix that as well. So these are some of the things that we see as priorities. We are blessed as well by our geographical location. Jamaica is right on the shipping lanes for the big ships that come through the Panama Canal, which, as you know, is one of the main trade routes in the world. And so that gives us lots of opportunity for logistics type services, maritime type services, ship repair, servicing ships, bunkering with oil, but also value added, where intermediate goods can be brought to Jamaica and can be assembled and so on here in Jamaica and re-exported. So logistics is really an industry which we feel can take Jamaica's economy forward in a big way, because by integrating Jamaica into the global supply chain more realistically, more meaningfully, you know, you're going to have the opportunities to really generate very well-paying jobs. Part of the problem is that although we have low unemployment in Jamaica now, the jobs are very menial jobs. A lot of the jobs are earning, you know, minimum wage, which in Jamaica is like, well, it's about 100, about four, let me see now, it's about 14 Yeah, 100 about under 100 US a week. You know, is the minimum wage in Jamaica. Yeah, so you know then so it's very difficult to survive. We need to generate better jobs, more high-paying jobs, and for that, as I said, we have to train our people so they can handle those jobs. But we also have to ensure that the industries that can deliver that are given the kind of support from the state that is necessary. Red tape is a big issue in Jamaica and bureaucracy, and as I told you, I'm a lawyer by profession, and one of the roles I intend to play when we form government will be to chair a committee that really looks at all of the bureaucracy.
Now, unfortunately for me, my battery died before I finished recording this presentation. But we got the gist of what he had to say. Some of his visions for Jamaica, some of the things he would do when he becomes government, when his party forms a government. Now, a lot of people are asking for the opposition to reveal their plans and so on, as if they don't know that such plans are released after an election is announced in the form of a manifesto. Nobody's going to be releasing their manifesto before an election is called. So what we got was a snapshot, a snippet of some of the plans of his party. Until next time, and we'll stop again. His next visit is going to be in New York, and I'll be there to record some of that. So until then, as always, it's enough love, enough manners, enough blessings. Thanks for watching.